Well, today is the 11th of June 2020. Now, look, this is pretty rough and ready, I know, but mentions Queensland is interesting. This is Section 92 of the Australian Constitution. Right to enter and leave Queensland. The right to be free to enter and leave the state is also protected by Section 92 of the Australian Constitution. This guarantees freedom of movement between states of both goods and people. Well, how much more do you need? Now, the two challenges are going to the High Court of Australia tomorrow, and I'll be discussing that a little further in a moment. Well, actually, what I was going to try and discuss briefly is that two cases, or two challenges, are going to the High Court on the 12th of June tomorrow. Now, they argue correctly, and I'm no constitutional lawyer, but it's so plain and simple, that people have a freedom to travel within and between the states. The Constitution, by the way, is law. It is not a guidebook. Now, the cases will be heard, but I'm not sure when the verdict will be announced. But I have a feeling that the 7 judges will probably find, I think anyway, unanimously, that that is quite true. Now, the state of Queensland, but all other states are just as guilty of this, by the way, but they will not open their borders. They allow, for example, in Queensland and in New South Wales, people to travel anywhere or all over that state, but they cannot travel between the states. Queensland closed its border, and now, by the way, about 100 years ago, they did the same thing when they had the Spanish flu. Now, people think, oh, well, look, they did it 100 years ago. It must be okay. Well, I'd say no, it must not be okay. Now, while we're at this, there needs to be a challenge in the High Court of Sections 8 and 30 of the Australian Constitution, which tells us that we can only vote once. Now, that's the way it was from 1901 to 1918. Then Billy Hughes, the Prime Minister of Australia, had preferential voting introduced, where now if you want to vote, you must fill in every square. There's no optional preferential, for example, as different states, including Queensland, has tried in the past and used, shall we say. What this means is, if you've got 5 people standing in a seat at a federal election, all 5 candidates must be numbered. In other words, just for ease, let's just say it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But that means you've now voted 5 times. It gets worse, by the way. In the Senate, you must vote 3 times for your first, second and third preference out of the huge number of parties and individuals that are standing in the Senate. Now, under the first past the post system that is enjoyed by democracies all over the world, the person who gets the most votes wins. What an amazing thing that would be. So what we're getting now is the person who runs second very often is the one who actually wins the seat. So I'm waiting with bated breath, as the saying goes, for the outcome of this case, and I believe that the Premier of Queensland and other premiers for that matter will have egg on face over this and open their borders really quick smart. So that's just something I'd welcome a discussion on, or anyone to comment on. It's something that's really, shall we say, current news and views at the moment.